everybody. Thank you very much for joining us for part 6 of the Rebound series that we've been doing this season. This is going to be our final installment. Last chance to check in with Eric Schreiber from Bold Indoor and Tony Lyman from Petal High School. As both of their ensembles are starting to gear up here for circuit championships and world championships and all of that. So we're going to be talking about how they're getting their ensembles ready to go, and some of the trek out to world championships, what their plans are for all of that. So I figured, gentlemen, since it's been a couple of weeks since we last checked in, I thought we would just start with a real quick, how have things been going? What have your ensembles been up to over the last 2 to 3 weeks? How's everything been treating you before we kind of start looking to the future? So Tony, let's start with you. How's everything been going at Petal High School?
I'm starting to see the glimmers of where we were in 2019 and 2020. I started to see those things come back, which was very, very encouraging to see. And I think the last time we talked, I likened it to being on a roller coaster ride, and it just seems like you tick, 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 and then you get to the top, and then there's that point where you tip over the top, and things start to go faster, and they start to get things quicker, and it starts to feel right and sound right, and that's where we are right now. And we're in the phase of, let's see how many reps we can get in on it to see how many times we can get it right and how long of a concentration can we have. So things are very encouraging right now.
That is excellent to hear. And you're speaking straight to my heart when you talk about that roller coaster. We finally get up to the top and we're building that momentum, and things are starting to click. And now in reps, rather than holding on for dear life as we look at things fall apart and not be what we want them to be, we're starting to have some of those moments where like, that was pretty good. Let's see if we can do that again and again and again. Eric, how about for you and Gold? How have things been going over the last few weeks?
It's been going really well. Maybe like last couple of weeks, we finished a show a few weeks ago, and I feel like the dust had finally settled like a week or so ago. So we got to the point where things are starting to like lock in, way more consistent. And the reps now, it's more about just accentuating the positives and just eliminating those negatives. But there's a lot less fires to put out. It's mostly in like, we're in a good position, and at this point we're just really just trying to dial in things. But everybody feels very confident about every part of the show at this point, which is huge.
That's great. So for your ensemble, do you feel like you're kind of into a good groove at this point, and everything's feeling comfortable for everybody?
Absolutely. It just starts to feel a lot more settled, and you can see in the performers, just especially in the last week or so, just the level of performance, the consistency from rep to rep, it's just kind of starting to lock in. And this is my favorite time of the season, when you can finally like dial in those little details.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know for both of you, we kind of kicked off this series talking about having to rebuild our ensembles. What did we do over the last 2 years to kind of keep things going? And now we're picking up the pieces and trying to get back to that in-person, on the floor live experience. So would both of you say by this point in the season that it no longer feels like the reboot and reassembly of everything, and it feels a little bit more like, okay, we've got the ensemble back to a place that feels comfortable and familiar to us in the before times, before the pandemic and all of that? Eric, what do you think on that?
I think absolutely. I mean, we obviously basically started as ensemble mostly from scratch going into this year. So not only is it kind of a quote unquote reboot, it's a like we're just starting this build. So especially the last few weeks is like the first point where you feel like, all right, we have a system, we know what we're doing. Everybody's kind of following the guidelines, everybody's doing what we're supposed to do. And it feels way more comfortable, and we feel a lot more settled.
Excellent. Tony, how about for you and Petal, relative to the, like, we're rebooting everything and rebuilding from scratch to this point in the season? Does it feel a lot more normal and a lot like you're back to where you wanted to be, or is there still work to do?
There's always work to do. But I think I mentioned this at the very first podcast, was about, saying things like, go pull the floor. Now I can say those things, and now the processes can be, hey, go do this. And they understand what that entire process encompasses now. some of the glimmers of hope that I see that like touched in my heart is like we'll do a rep and they're going, man, that was really good, high fives, and they're awesome. And I was like, okay, now we have to do that every time.
Right.
And it's
That's
like
gonna be 10 out of 10.
We're going into a place where that's going to be expected from everything that we do all the time. That's the thing. It's like, oh, okay. So you can high five, but let's celebrate for like 3 seconds and see if we can do that every single time. So the reference now is back. The reference of we know what it feels like to do this correctly. Now let's see how many times we can do it. Whereas when we started, we kind of didn't have a reference of what we were aiming at other than survival.
Yeah. Kind of from can we do this to we can do this, but can we do this consistently?
Exactly. Because I explained the boxes to them and the language that goes. It was like, okay, we consistently did this, yay! But there's a box for that. There's we frequently did it, or we inconsistently. When you see a number when the scores come out, did you do that frequently? Did you do it consistent? Well, we didn't. Well, there you go.
Right.
That's what I like about the model that WGI has, is that you can kind of answer your own questions through the scoring system.
And I used to always talk to my students about consistently. Are we doing this consistently? Like, yay! Now, this one has 5 considerations. Are we doing all 5 of those things consistently? Whereas one consistent and the other 4 frequently. And so that's the challenge that you start to play in the game. You start to play with students. Can we fire on all of these cylinders all at the same time? So
right.
Fun time of the season to be in for sure. I want to talk with both of you about circuit championships and pick your brain on that a little bit. Tony, if I'm not mistaken, I think Petal had theirs this weekend. Is that accurate?
We had our circuit championships this weekend. Unfortunately, we were unable to attend because our circuit championships usually is an hour and a half away from where we are. And this time was about 4 hours away from where we are. And we couldn't get transportation. We couldn't afford to get a charter bus to go. So we were just going to take school bus, leave really early. But we have a driver shortage at our school, and we couldn't get anyone to that could take on that amount of hours, essentially leaving in the morning and getting back the next morning. And so we had to punt and opt for a rehearsal instead.
That's good because it still keeps the ensemble on the track and rehearsing and getting reps on the performance with that ultimate goal of WGI World Championships for your team. But I think also serves as a reminder for all of us that, hey, the logistics behind the scene are still a huge challenge for all of us. And as much as we all want to be back to normal and have things feel normal and have normal experiences, not every aspect of life and society is back to normal yet. And so there are those bumps on the road. There are those unanticipated things that come up, and we sometimes have to roll with it and don't get everything to shake out exactly the way that we want it to. Eric, how about for your ensembles? I know you teach a number of groups, a couple of different high school groups as well as Gold. How's the circuit championship stuff shaping up for your teams?
My A-class group went yesterday. We did prelims already, so we have their semifinals round is next Sunday. My open class ensemble is next Saturday. My world class scholastic group is next Saturday, and then Gold Indoor is next Sunday. So lots of prelims going on next week, and then A-class semis as well. So it's a busy weekend coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of irons in the fire and plates to keep spinning all at the same time. Do you feel like Gold in particular is on track to where you want them to be for their prelims performance and then hopefully for their finals performance if they advance to that?
After this weekend of rehearsals, absolutely. We had full day yesterday, 3 blocks, 2 blocks today. So it's kind of making all the necessary adjustments, changes, anything that we needed. Got those locked in. Felt pretty good at the end of the day. We got one more rehearsal on Saturday before we go to prelims. So we're feeling a lot better about things now.
Good. And I hope that's a feeling that everybody that's watching this is starting to have, where we're building that comfort. Our students are feeling comfortable with their responsibilities and their capabilities with their performance. And we as staff members are starting to feel comfortable with the reps and the consistency and getting the show to match the original vision that I know we all had, probably 6 months ago at this point when we started putting pencil to paper and designing things. So hopefully we're still starting to realize and have these visions to come to fruition for us. Gentlemen, I'd love to shift and pivot now to WGI World Championships, which I have said many, many times is my favorite week of the year. It's something I circle on the calendar every single year, and man, not having this the last couple of years has just put the biggest spotlight on this experience coming up. I can't wait. And I'm sure you both probably feel the same way. Talk to me a little bit, take me inside your ensembles and tell me a bit about your preparation process from now until you depart for World Championships. And then we'll talk about the trek in a second, but what are the kinds of things you're doing with your ensemble right now to prepare them for that world stage that we're going to have in Dayton, Ohio? Tony, would you start? Talk to us about Petal High School. What are the kinds of things that you're going to be doing to prepare the ensemble for that adventure?
Well, we start by making sure that we have the talk about being healthy and the things that you have to do outside of rehearsal and outside of our little bubble that we create when we come together that affects what happens from here on out. Whether it be, you catch a cold or, you're not sleeping and you get ill. Every minute matters. Every minute matters to us leading in there. Or you're out playing football or something and you sprain an ankle. Well, that could affect everything that happens from here on out. So we talk about health. We talk about taking care of those things like your homework and, keeping your parents happy, cleaning your room. All of those things are issues that'll find themselves in taking away from us preparing for the biggest thing of our lives right now. Going up to the World Championships, we do a send-off show for our community, where we do the show and we take them through segments. I'm sure a lot of groups do this, but it's a great way for the kids to kind of get that last bit of adrenaline of performing for an audience and just being rock stars before they leave. And we also do a performance for the elementary school. They actually take the entire elementary school and they walk over to the high school, and the drumline's sitting there, and they just, it doesn't matter what they do, and they just go nuts. And I did a little bit of an experiment the other day, and I asked everybody, I was like, how many of you were in the 4th grade when you saw the indoor group? And just about everybody in the group raised their hand. And I was like, it brought tears to my eyes, because it's, that performance is feeding what we're doing now.
Sure.
And so we just, that's our preparation for getting out, is to give them that last boost of energy and adrenaline, and learning how to take those emotions and deal with them in concentration and in their hands and in their feet. That's what we do.
That's excellent. And Eric, for you on the independent side for Gold Indoor, what are the kinds of things that you do that will help prepare that ensemble for the WGI World Championships experience?
I think a lot of it is we've just been in preparation for obviously months for this. So just the constant conversation of, performing at this level, performing at the arenas at the end of the season. Fortunately, with SCPA, we also have, a grand arena that we get to perform in. So we've been talking about that with SCPA as well. So for us, it's just a lot of it, just mentally prepping everybody for, the level of pressure that you kind of have to put on yourself for those type of situations. Fortunately, we've been kind of talking about it for a while now, and just every show kind of put ourselves in that position. So, mentally, the preparation is kind of been in the works for a while. And I feel like the members are like, they can picture themselves in the arena at this point, and you can see them when they're performing. They're ready to go for the big dance.
Excellent. Eric, I don't want to put you on the spot too much, but so you can ballpark this. When you look at the membership of Gold, what % of them do you think have been to the WGI World Championships before, either as a performer or a spectator or something like that, but have made the trek out there, either with an independent group in the past or with a scholastic group? Do you have any feel for that?
Maybe 5-10%.
Okay. So this
Yeah,
is going to be a
it's a
brand new
few.
experience for all of them. Are you finding yourself spending extra time right now talking about what that world championship experience is like and what they need to do to, the show is the show and we got to perform the show, but being on that stage and traveling and being there with the best of the best in the world does something psychologically as you enter into that zone. Have you do you do any work, or do you plan to do any work talking with them about those aspects for those that don't have the experience before?
Yeah, we just actually at the end of last rehearsal earlier today, just kind of started those discussions a little bit more. And a lot of it's just this is what the whole week's going to look like. This is exactly what we can kind of expect. Like I tell them, I'm going to post the itinerary. You're going to see everything laid out, but it's different. Like looking at it versus like talking about it and making sure they actually understand how little rehearsal time we actually get and how many performances we actually get in relation to those rehearsals.
Yeah.
Not to mention the process of, out here after our local championships, after SCPA, we pack up the truck on Saturday evening and we're done. Like we don't see the equipment or anything until Wednesday, and we get one day of rehearsal before our prelims on Thursday. So a lot of it's just mentally prepping them for that. Like we're gonna have very very little rehearsal time. You can be jet lagged, and we gotta crank right away when we get there on Wednesday.
I like what you said about basically the idea of transparency, just explaining to the students, whether they're independent or scholastic, walking them through your Wednesday is going to be like this, Thursday is going to be like this. Here's what the schedule looks like. Here's what to expect, so they can start to wrap their head around that experience. Especially since we've all had a 2-year layover. Whether you've been doing this at a very high level for a long time or are brand new to it, we've all had this 2-year layover. So our performers don't have this recent experience. We're probably gonna have to do a lot of coaching on that. Tony, kind of the same question for you. I would imagine, just we kind of do the math with all of the scholastic groups. This year's seniors possibly performed at world championships as freshmen, as the like brand new members of the ensemble. And other than that, we don't have any veteran like Dayton savvy performers. So I'm guessing you would put the percent of pedal students that have performed on that stage before also very low. What kind of preparation work do you do with your students?
I have tried to explain the experience over and over and over again. Um, but I try to do it in a way that I don't want to be condescending about it. It's like, there's a way you can say, well, you guys just don't even know what you're about to get into.
Sure.
And I've tried to catch myself from doing that, because I think that can somehow be psychologically damaging in a small way. So I just kind of try to hide a little Easter eggs here. And it was like, it's so exciting to get there and look around the parking lot and see the level of experience and just how everybody is extremely phenomenal, and you get to be a part of that. So what we have to do is make sure that we're extremely phenomenal along with everything that's extremely phenomenal in the parking lot. So I try to reframe it through that lens, and just constantly remind them that this is unlike anything you've ever experienced, but in a good way.
It's one of my favorite things at World Championships is going out of the lot and just being like, oh my gosh, they're really good, and they're really good, and they're really good, and just everywhere you look, everybody's really good. It doesn't even matter what class you're in or what site you're at. Mm-hmm. Everybody's playing really well at this particular event. So that's always such an awesome part of it. Now, Tony, I have one other question for you, specifically with high school students and ones that haven't been there before. As I'm thinking about this, stamina enters into my psyche a whole bunch in terms of being prepared for this, preparing performers for potentially 3 performances at world championships. If you advance from prelims to semifinals and finals, some ensembles that would be 3 consecutive days of performances. I don't think any of us ever do that during the regular season. And for some, like if you're in Scholastic A, you might have a prelims performance on Thursday and then semifinals and finals on Friday. And so that's 2 performances in that day. Very long day after traveling and all that other kind of stuff. Do you have any like tips or suggestions or anything you do in terms of preparing students for the stamina aspect of this?
Well, towards the end of the season, we just try to do as many full show run throughs as we usually start with a run through and say, okay, What if it were raining in the parking lot and we had to unload our stuff, go into UD, and lay down a prelims performance? This is what it would be. Here we go. And so we start the rehearsal with a run through, and we end the performance or in a rehearsal with a run through. And we just try to keep them almost like a boot camp level, rigorous kind of rehearsal, to where we can just try to build up their stamina by doing more reps, and just overemphasizing when we get there. It is very important that you stick to the schedule. You can't stay up late. All those things that you would normally do as a teenager. Oh, we're in a different place. This is so exciting. Let's stay up and talk about how exciting it is.
Right. It's not a vacation.
Exactly. It's and I tell them all the time, there are other groups and clubs, when they go on trips, it's a vacation. They do whatever thing they're going to do, and they go to Disney World, or they go to the museum, and they go sightseeing. I was like, this is a business trip. Everything, the reason why we're going here, our business is that we have to play possibly, hopefully, 3 of the best shows we've ever done in our life. And I guarantee you at the end of it, you will be rewarded with something that is greater than any Disney trip will ever give you. That's why there's no lack of people being in this group, and why people keep coming back to it. Because your parents can take you to Disney World, your grandparents can take you to an amusement park, but that feeling of having believed in something for this long and dialed in every detail and being rewarded for it with this grand finale, there's nothing like it.
Yeah. And I always think about, I love what you said about, like, your parents can take you to Disneyland. You can have that experience on your own. The World Championships experience, everybody can come to it. But if you want to perform twice, or you want to perform 3 times at World Championships, you've got to earn that. You have to earn your spot into semifinals. You got to earn your spot into finals and to get onto those kinds of stages. And it comes from all the hard work that we've invested all season long. But all that hard work is for naught if we come and we're not prepared at World Championships, or we're making mistakes, like staying up really late and not putting ourselves in a position to be at our best for all that. So I love the tips and the advice for that. Especially one of the other things that occurs to me is, like, for a lot of our, Tony, you teach a Scholastic World group, they're used to going on at the end of the event, kind of at the end of the night. And then you roll into World Championships, and those prelims and semifinal performances, you might have an early morning performance time. And so it's showtime at a time that you're not used to it being showtime. And those are just some of the things you got to kind of think about and plan for in advance, and prepare students and performers for as well. I want to talk a little bit about the trek now to World Championships. And Tony, I'd love to start with you. What does it look like for Pedal? How do you what's the mode of transportation to get there? What's your timeline? When do you all depart? What does that look like between leaving Pedal High School and your first performance in Dayton, Ohio? Can you give us a little glimpse of that?
The week of World Championships, the Monday night, we do our community performance send-off show. The next morning, which prepares us for early morning performances, at 7:30 a.m., we do the elementary school performance. And then that night, Tuesday night, we leave and go to Nashville, and we stay overnight in Nashville. We get up the next Wednesday morning, and we stay in outside of Dayton, and we have a rehearsal facility with a relationship I built with a band director long ago, and we rehearse at their high school Wednesday night, and we get up Thursday morning, and we do the whole week, the rest of the week at World Championships. We travel. We have our semi truck that travels with us. We have a staff RV, and then we have a charter bus that the members are on. And some parents, we have another trail of parents that just drive their cars and follow us.
Sure, the caravan with all the painted windows on the side and all that ready to go. Yes.
And every year they get upset that they can't come into the parking lot with the bus, and I have to explain to them that it's become a part of it.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Eric, how about for you? What is the trek going to look like for Gold Indoor this year?
Well, our equipment leaves on Saturday night. And we end up just all the kids and the staff members are just meeting at the airport on Tuesday morning. We fly out there. Tuesday is full travel day, just layover, etc. We fly into Indianapolis, and from there we get a couple passenger vans, and then we drive to Dayton area, and then we stay at our hotel there. Wednesday morning, we unload the trailer for the first time. Hopefully everything's in one piece. And then at best, we get 3 blocks of rehearsal that day. And then pack up. And if I remember right, I'm not looking at the schedule now, I don't think there's enough time for rehearsal on Thursday morning before prelims. So we just kind of wake up, stretch out a little bit, head on out there and just get ready for prelims.
And coming from the West Coast, I know you've brought several ensembles in the past. Is that jet lag thing an issue for your performers moving from Pacific time zone to Eastern time zone?
I'll say it's not ideal. You get there that first day, everybody's a little bit rough around the edges, but it's, if there's a will, there's a way. Like we kind of just, like I already kind of started talking to the members about that. Like that's gonna be a rough morning. So anything you can do between Monday night and Tuesday travel, like just get extra sleep, make sure you take care of yourself. Because when you wake up Wednesday morning, feeling good or feeling bad, we got to do the thing. So
yeah,
I think it's mentally prepping everybody for that jet lag.
I've never pulled it off perfectly, but I always try to like almost carbo load on sleep before I get to Ohio. Like the couple of, got to have really good night's sleep the couple of days before I go out, because I know once I touch down in Ohio, I'm going to get very little sleep. They're, incredibly long days, 18, 20-hour days sometimes. And so I think it's that way for most of us that are there the entire time. And the emotional roller coaster of the whole entire experience.
Absolutely.
As well. So you just want to go into it as well rested as possible. So Eric, you mentioned like you put all the equipment on the truck on Saturday night and then don't see it at all until Wednesday morning and open up the truck and see, hey, did this survive the, I don't know what it is, 2,500-mile journey or something like that. I know one thing that some of the groups from the West Coast have done in the past is because it's very expensive to get those trucks out there. So there'll be a couple ensembles that, normally have their own trucks, but they'll combine everything into one truck to take it out there. And then once they get it out there, like have to reassemble, literally they take every single marimba apart bolt by bolt and then have to put it back together and load, one ensemble will rent a box truck and put it on there. Is Gold doing anything like that this year? Or do you have your own truck with just your stuff traveling out?
Fortunately, we are not doing the mega load this year.
Okay.
We are, unfortunately, it's because our props are gigantic and took up too much room that we couldn't share with another ensemble. So it's kind of us shooting ourselves in the foot, but logistically it's way better. Financially, it's not as good.
I know every time I've ever done that with another ensemble, traveled out and tried to cram everything in one truck, it feels like a good idea when you're planning it and you're like, we're going to share some resources and we only need one driver to get out there. And then when you get there, like it takes so many hours to open up that truck and separate all of the gear and reassemble it and get half of it loaded onto another truck. So I'm glad that Gold won't have that extra layer of complexity.
We've had a few memories of in the past after SPA championships, you finish up and like 10 o'clock at night, 10:30 at night, we start the mega load. It's 2 ensembles trying to just cram 2 world-class ensembles in a trailer. And it's 4:30 in the morning and we're still just wrapping up like 5 or 6 hours just trying to make it happen. So this is way better.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, gentlemen, I want to wrap up. I'm incredibly excited about World Championships. I want to wrap up and find out if either one of you have any tips or pieces of advice that you would share with everybody else that's making the trek out to World Championships this year. Eric, I know you've brought ensembles many times over many years. Tony, I know you've brought pedal for, I don't even know how many consecutive years now to this. Anything that you've picked up over the years that you would like to share with everybody, whether they're, making their 20th trip or making their first trip ever, anything you've experienced over the years that you want to share out there with everybody?
I would say, enjoy the experience. We're kind of socialized into worrying about scores and numbers and placements and how we do this and that, but one of the things that I like to do is sit by a parent that's never seen any of this before and just watch their eyes as they're taking all of this in, because it's unlike anything anybody could ever experience. You could pull somebody off the street and say, hey, come here, I want you to see something. and put them in a seat and watch it, and they're going to be amazed. And you say, hey, these are young people. These are essentially kids doing all this amazing stuff. That no adults are down there right now, other than a select few that are in independent groups. But this is an amazing thing, and taking the macro of it all and enjoy it for what it is, and the impact that it's had on so many lives and so many people that have gone through this process and doing great things afterwards.
Thank you. That is excellent. Eric, anything else to add to that?
I remind myself, just stay focused, stay positive, stay healthy. There's so many things that can derail a trip, and you just eyes on the prize. You want to have a great experience, and that's the most important thing. At this point in the season, by the time you're rolling out there, all the work's been done. You just have to make sure you just stay focused on your ensemble.
That's excellent advice, and I love the trio that you gave us of the three things that we should be doing. Okay, here's my tip for it, and what I've picked up over the years, bringing a bunch of groups out there as well, is I would recommend everybody build some time into your schedule that includes performers being able to be at sites and watch other ensembles perform. Don't fill up the whole trip with rehearsal or with like trips out to like eat and spend 3 hours at a meal and things like that. Build some time into your schedule that allows them to experience the World Championship experience beyond just I arrive, I unload, I warm up, I perform, I get scores, I exit. I think that's such a huge part of it. I also would encourage you, like the lot is awesome, let your kids go out on the lot, but really I would encourage you and tell you to encourage your students to get inside the arenas and watch the shows in that environment. Get a little bit of lap time, but then make sure that everybody's experiencing the performances as each ensemble has kind of crafted them and prepared them. If you want your ensemble to come back hungry and ready for more next year, like ready to dive back into rehearsals after the World Championships experience, let them see groups at their best on the floor in the arena, watching all the trappings of everything as the show is intended to be seen. I know that's something Tony and I have talked about before, where like students see it and they get that bug, and then the whole drive home or the whole flight home, they're buzzing about who they saw, what they saw. They've got the pads out and are already starting to work on new things, and it just lights this whole fire. But that doesn't happen if they don't get that chance to experience it live and to be able to watch others. And the last thing I want to say is just a word of caution about competition. This is a competitive event. We're all going there to compete. Everybody is striving to accomplish something, whether it's becoming a finalist for the first time or the 20th time, or earning a medal or being a class champion. But if we get a little too wrapped up in all of that, it's very easy to lose sight of the fact that if we're all uber competitive, that means only 9 ensembles can come home happy about their season, because there are only going to be 9 champions named at this event for our different classes. So it's really important that we define our success beyond just the competitive outcomes. So that will not happen in Dayton unless you've prepared it ahead of time, unless what you're talking about with your students is de-emphasizing the competition and turning it more into a celebration and setting your own goals. Maybe your goal this year is to become a semifinalist because you never have been before. Maybe your goal is we want to break a certain score that we haven't yet achieved this season, and that's what we're trying to do. Set some barometer for yourself beyond just what what judge outcomes will be and the recap will say and things like that. And I think that will ultimately serve you, your students, and your parents really well if we can find a way to celebrate the season, no matter what it is, because for every ensemble that's going to be there this year, regardless of competitive outcome, I think it's going to truly be an amazing celebration of all that we've been through and all that it took to get us back to where we are. And so I would encourage you to do that and emphasize that as much as possible. Eric and Tony, I cannot thank the two of you enough for jumping into this project with me this year. It is so wonderful that you have both allowed us kind of behind the scenes into your ensembles, that you've been so vulnerable and honest and humble and transparent about the good, the bad, the ugly, everything that's happening. I've heard from so many people in the activity that have said this has been really helpful to hear that there are other people going through the same struggles and the same challenges in trying to rebound and put this all back together again and get our groups down the road. So Eric, thank you so much for this. Tony, thank you so much for this. and joining us for all of these recordings this season. And everybody else that's watching, thank you for spending a little bit of time with us this season and allowing us to talk about what we love and what we're passionate about, and how everything's been going behind the scenes. And we're all looking forward to seeing everybody at World Championships. So if you're going to be there this year, make sure to come by and say hi. If you get a chance, check out Pedal in the Lot or in the arena. Check out Gold Indoor in the lot or the arena. Come up and say hi to Eric or Tony. I'm sure they'd love that. And if you see me walking around somewhere, do come up and say hello as well. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, take care, everybody. Safe travels. We'll see you in Dayton, Ohio.